You're live. Says so. Says, welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy. Guard my privacy. What does that even mean, guard my privacy? I am literally streaming on a platform. I don't know. We talk a lot about privacy in the world these days, and I think we should all think about our privacy. I think we should all consider our privacy. But for different people, privacy matters in different ways, you know. So, like in my case, I don't want to be presumptuous to say that the government is watching me. I don't have any evidence of that. But I shouldn't be naive that they're not watching me. I mean, you know, they're watching all kinds of people. Like those guys, where were they down in, where were those guys that wanted to kidnap the governor of Michigan? You know, they very likely thought, nobody's watching us. Who cares? They should have been a little more careful with their privacy. That's the moral of that story, ladies and gentlemen. If you're going to become a domestic terrorist, you care about your privacy. Now, for the record, I like to think of myself as a freedom fighter, obviously. I think most people probably do. You know, terrorist has a bad ring to it. John Brown, you cannot look at John Brown, definitively the most important Akron citizen in the history of Akron. Most consequential, if you'd like to go that way. You can trace the Civil War and the abolishing of slavery right back to John Brown. You really can. And some people say that the raid on Harper's Ferry was the dress rehearsal to the Civil War. It's a pretty big deal. I always admire, I like John Brown for many, many, many reasons. A, he's an Akronite like me. B, he a hell of a lot of integrity. But, like, a great activist. And the reason he was a great activist was because very clear what he wanted. It was very clear what he wanted. He wanted to end slavery. Hey, John, why'd you murder that family in Missouri or Kansas or wherever they were? I wanted to end slavery. Hey, John, why did you raid Harper's Ferry? Wanted to end slavery. Super clear. Super clear. This is the problem with kids these days and their their movements. Although I will say Black Lives Matter, fairly clear. Although, is it really? Like, it has to do with police should stop murdering black people, right? Like, that's the general gist, right? So, stop murdering black people, police. Hey, police, stop murdering black people. But how you do it is tricky, because you still need the police. You see, you don't need slavery. John Brown was like, end slavery. And basically, the Black Lives Matter people they would have to say end policing. And I'm sure some people are saying that, right? But you need some referees. You need some people in uniforms that are like, hey, break it up, everybody. Break it up. And that's what a police officer is, you know? I know I say fuck the police a lot, but I just said fuck 211 yesterday, so I'm pretty much an anti-establishment guy, but not an anarchist. I'm more of like a burn it to the ground and rebuild it kind of guy, you know? So you can't really get rid of the police. In fact, do you really want that? You just want police to not kill black people or to oppress people based on racist stereotypes or even class stereotypes of poverty and drug use and blah, blah, blah. And then the problem is you get a certain kind of person that wants to be a police officer. Somebody that loves Captain America, for example. Does anybody besides a police officer love Captain America? I mean, come on. I mean, really? Captain America? And it's fine. It's fine. Captain America's fine, but come on, he's not the best. Just had this very important conversation with a friend of mine this week. The best of the best, without a doubt, Batman. Can't deny it. It's undeniable. I mean, why would we don't even need to have this conversation? We don't even need to have this conversation. So, so you get a Captain America type that is like, a white pretty boy that is wholesome. And then, kind of judgy. Anybody that isn't a white, wholesome, pretty boy. Well, except for white, wholesome, pretty girls. They love those. And then it gets weird where they start loving freaky shit. And then, and then they're upset. They take it out on us. So, at any rate, we need police. So we can't abolish the police. We just can't. You don't want that world. But you do want a world, I think, where people, maybe a psychologist becomes a police officer. I would like to see more people policing without weapons. There's a video I have of two homeless people. I don't know if they're both homeless. It doesn't matter. That were going at each other, and I was there. They were going at each other with a, one had a long push broom, and the other had variety of weapons. A stick, a metal, like, I don't know what it was, just some metal object that was like hand size. And the police never came, and it like stopped traffic on Exchange. And quite honestly, I was glad the police didn't come, because as I was sitting there watching it, I'm like, man, if the police show up, this shit's gonna get serious, right? Like, they're gonna start blaring their sirens. Who even knows? Are they gonna start pulling guns? And the community were able to subdue the situation. We were able to subdue the situation. And that was great. None of us had weapons. None of us attacked either of the fighters. We just were like trying to separate them, and eventually it dissolved. And it was good. Nobody really got hurt. Actually, I think it resolved some things. It made the person who instigated the fight, who felt that they were being had been stolen from by the other person, felt better, got a whack or two in with his stick. The other guy not terribly hurt, but was scared, and did get a whack or two with the stick. And now I feel like the wrongs have been righted, and they can move on. They can move on. So that is that was the best situation. So I just don't know what it would have been like had the police shown up. But we didn't need the police, and now they didn't have to go to jail, blah, blah, blah. Everything moved on peacefully. It was all good. So the Black Lives Matter movement has some problems in the fact that I don't think you're going to win the war on abolishing the police. Now, maybe they want to destroy the police system and rebuild the police system, which is probably, maybe they would say that. That's going to be tricky. You really got to reform, right? You got to get some oversight. You got to, let police officers know if you kill somebody, you could end up going to jail. If you're not doing it right, you really should try not to kill people that don't need to be killed. A lot of stuff, right? So at any rate, I think, but then that's much more nuanced than John Brown, where John Brown was just like, end slavery. And you're basically like, yeah, like you can just end a certain kind of addiction to slavery, but you can't really end an addiction to policing. It's like ending an addiction to food. You still need the food, right? Hello and welcome. I want to show you around, people that are here. I'm glad you found me here on YouTube. This is where I'm going to be streaming Sunday Morning with Sage, I think, from now on. I have friends that do not like Facebook, and they refuse to go see me on Facebook. They refuse. And now I have a lot of friends on Facebook, which, so it's, I'm torn, right? I'm like, I don't know. There's people that want to see me on Facebook. There's people that want to not see me on Facebook. So I'm trying to find a happy medium ground. I don't think most people hate YouTube. Sure, somebody hates YouTube, but for the most part, YouTube is not like this evil empire that at least that's what people would say. So that's kind of good. But at any rate, I try to be more like John Brown in his marketing message of end homelessness. Now, a lot of other people are in that camp. They're like, yes, let's end homelessness. Housing ends homelessness. And sure, it does, but housing is slow and laborious. And so I'm all for housing, okay? But I know many homeless people that go into housing and leave housing, okay? They leave it because of anxiety. They don't know their new neighborhood. They have no friends. They're alone. They end up going back to the woods because they feel more a part of a community. And if you don't understand the importance of community to humans, you don't understand humans. There is nothing more important to a human than community. We can't survive without community. And so we must understand that the only way we're going to get people out of homelessness is to keep them in the existing community they have or provide them with a new community. And like sober living is kind of like that. I've seen a really nice sober living apartment complex, and that's a whole bunch of people trying to get sober. Very cool, right? But it's community based. Homeless housing is isolation based. Put a person in a house over here, put a person in a house over there. Done. We've solved homelessness. No, you haven't. There's more homeless where those came from. They're being made every single day. people are falling into homelessness every single day, and you're going to lose those people, a certain percentage of those people in the housing, because their mental health is going to spike, their addictions are going to spike, and they're just going to go back to the street. Absolutely, positively the truth, okay? And so you need triage. You need a intermediate. You have to look at homelessness like a natural disaster. If in your community a tornado ripped through your neighborhood or a tsunami destroyed your village, the Red Cross would swoop in and create tent communities for you. And you would stay in them until every single person got housed. It's just how it works. But we have this added layer of people judging homeless people. They truly hate homeless people, but if I say that, then a lot of people are like, oh, I don't hate homeless people. I'm like, oh, yes, you do. You hate homeless people. I mean, how many homeless friends do you have? And obviously, people that have homeless friends, I'm not talking to you, but, you know, if you're the kind of person that, you know, clenches your steering wheel as you drive next to a person with a sign, or you're in a city and there's a person with a sign on the street, and you're in your mind judging them, like trying to rationalize why you're not going to give them money, you hate homeless people. You do. You judge them. And to make yourself feel better, that's why you're doing it. So at any rate, we need triage, emergency shelter, because I want to show you, I'm here at another camp. Let me see if I can flip this around. So this is actually, believe it or not, this is a happy story. This is the last person that lived here was my friend Ace. And Ace now lives indoors. He does. He went from this camp to living indoors. Now, here you can see the remains of this camp. There's another section of it over there. He had kind of two spaces. This was kind of his community area. There was a fire pit right there, and then he lived in a tent over there. And so you can see, obviously, and then the trash just cascades down the street here, or down the hill. And what I can tell you is that this is not all Ace is doing. Did Ace contribute to the trash that's here? Absolutely he did. But this is a very common place that homeless people come to live. It's quite secluded. It is near services. It's a great little place to camp out. It's quite isolated, and so there are pockets like this all over, and I've kind of decided maybe I'll take you to a variety of closed down camps. Because nobody's living here, and generally you probably can't imagine where I am right now. I don't think there's any telltale signs of where I am, and I don't want you here. I don't want you at this camp, and particularly a person that I'm sure is watching this sooner or later, Jeremy. I don't want you here, Jeremy. And the reason I don't want you here is because I see this as sacred ground. This space is not the product of a no good, trashy, loser, homeless person. This is the location of where society spit out an American. They spit out an American, and they were forced to live in hiding in this location without any services, no trash, no bathroom facilities, no fresh water, nothing. And they did not want anything. They asked for nothing from the city. All they asked from the city was to please, dear God, leave them alone. Please, dear God, leave them alone. And they didn't leave him alone. They tried to get him out. They put a sign and said he had to be evicted, but interestingly, he just didn't leave. I thought that was clever. He just threw away the sign, didn't leave, and they didn't come back. Because, oh man, my brick tripod is not as sturdy as you might think it should be. Come on, brick tripod. Be good to me. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. So, the only thing a homeless person in this situation wants from the city is to be left alone. Because the city is their enemy. And the city feels the same way. The city sees the homeless as the enemy. And so they're in this strange battle, and it gets down to just being allowed to exist. And then the city will in articles, if this was an article in the Akron Beacon Journal, then a spokesperson from the city would say something like, there's shelter for everyone who needs it. Bull fucking shit. Bullshit. Bullshit. There's fucking shelter for everyone. This guy couldn't get into shelter. And so, but then people read that and they're like, oh, well, Sage must just be not understanding the situation. Because the authorities, the spokesperson for the city said that there's shelter for everyone, so that must certainly be true. And then the homeless service providers followed up and said, oh yeah, there's shelter for everyone. So, Sage must not understand. No, that's propaganda bullshit. That is not true. There is not shelter for everyone, okay? And in fact, we are going into winter. This is the middle of October now. We are going into winter where there is going to be less shelter for homeless people all across America because of social distancing. We are going to go through all of winter with COVID-19. The word on the street is it is going to surge in November and December, and we are going to have more people that cannot get shelter. Now, why can't they get in the shelter? Okay, so for women, typically, especially in the winter, just all the beds are full. So I will often call all the shelters and ask, and they will say everything is full, okay? For men, you can typically go to the Haven of Rest if the Haven of Rest will accept you and you're willing to do what the Haven of Rest says. If you want to sleep at the Haven of Rest, you must go to church every night, and I think it's an hour service. You must pray before every meal. Doesn't matter if you're Jewish, atheist, Muslim, you must go to Christian church. You must. You want a bed? Fucking kneel down to Jesus, bitch. That's the stance. That's the stance. I just editorialized it a little bit, but 100% that's the stance. Kneel to Jesus, fucker, loser. Pray to fucking Jesus. Some people would rather die. Funny. I don't know if you know anything about Americans, but we like our freedom. We like our freedom. We like it. We like it. We like not being told who to pray to. Okay? We like freedom of speech. Okay? And we have been conditioned as Americans to prize that freedom. And so there are people that won't go simply because they don't want Jesus jammed down their throat. I have actually had Christians refused to go because they didn't like how the Haven of Rest presented Jesus. They don't like how Christianity is presented there, so they're like, fuck it, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. So, hey, can I make a little pitch? Please subscribe here on YouTube, would you? If you are here, it's nice to see you. You can leave a comment if you would like. Please subscribe to this channel. I would love it. This is where I'm going to be doing my live broadcasts from YouTube. So if you would subscribe, that would be so well. So, but then there's been people that have been kicked out. They're permanently banned from the Haven of Rest, so that means you can't go there. Okay, you can't stay there. There are people that are actively using drugs, or are actively drinkers. You cannot stay there. You are not welcome there. You're not welcome there. Oh, thank you for the thumbs up. That is not. That's not where you can go. And so then you have, then the judgment's in, well, and they're like, Sage, these people should stop doing drugs and stop drinking, and then they could go. Well, my dear little summer child, that's not how addiction works, my friend. Addiction is not a choice. Addiction is a prison, okay? You don't choose addiction. Addiction swallows you, okay? It swallows you. If you think somebody can just turn off an addiction for a bed, you don't know a single thing about addiction. You don't know a single thing about it. Most addicts just want to die. That's all they want. It's what I wanted. I wanted to just drink myself to death. For some reason, I couldn't do it, and I tried. Well, I've been really depressed. Just, I really loved being drunk. I really loved not being in the present. Obviously, I now lead a much fuller, much more interesting life. But if you haven't been strongly addicted to something like a drug or gambling or sex, you should just shut up. In the words of our new president, would you just shut up? Was that what he said? That's silly. That was dumb. Anyways, guy's got a mouth on him too. So, thank you for the thumbs up. That's so wonderful. Please subscribe here if you would. So here, if you haven't seen, I'll show you this again. This is the camp that I'm in. So Jeremy, I am not going to allow down here, and I'm not going to allow it. I do not want any of you to come down here. But Jeremy's point was, Sage, we should clean this. I would come down. He said I would come down and clean this up because he's a big Mother Earth guy and he loves nature, animals, and I can totally get behind that. But I don't want him anywhere near here because his energy is so negative. And I do not want this space filled with negative energy. But I do think this winter, I'm going to start camping out at some of these closed camps, and I'm going to clean them up. Because you see, isn't it interesting that the city really cares about cleaning up homeless camps until the homeless people are gone, and then they're like, well, screw it. Problem solved. We cleaned up the garbage. We cleaned up the garbage. And the garbage was the people. So the city leaves, and this is probably city land. I can't remember. This is either city land or railroad land. But it doesn't matter. City won't ever clean it up because they cleaned it up. They got rid of the humans. They got rid of the humans, you see. That's what cleaning up homelessness means. And so, but I would like to clean this up. I would like to clean up this trash, and I don't really want help. One of the reasons I do these live broadcasts is because I want to connect with people, but I don't really want to connect with people. I don't really, I don't like that. There we go. Hold on. I also don't like how my lighting was such crap. guess I could this is not great. So, I do these live broadcasts because it's a way for me to connect with people in a way that's comfortable with me, for me, but I don't want to hang out with you and clean this up. I don't. I'm sorry. It's not that I don't love you. It's not that I don't want you to participate, and I would like, but I'm just kind of an isolated person. I just like to be left alone. And so, and part of me doing this show is being honest with you about stuff like that. See? All right. I'm serious. I'm going to move. We're going to find a place where I can get better lighting, because I don't like being all dark. And I was using those little bricks for my tripod, and mooey no good. Mooey no good. Here, I'm going to use this. Here, I'll show you. I'm gonna take this little tree here. I have one of those cool bendy tripods, and I'm going to wrap it around this tree and finish my podcast standing up. Why not? I can stand for like another 20 minutes, maybe. There, let me get my tea. That'll be fine. So yeah, I just, I don't know what it is about me, but I'm a very isolated person, and one of the reasons I think I like homeless people so much is because I understand them. They just want to be left alone, and they just want to live their lives in peace as best they can, and they want to stop being antagonized and tortured by their government. They're just doing the best they can, and I just can really get it. I can really get it. And the poverty is real, the poverty of homelessness is real. The cost of living is expensive. I went to a friend of mine's third floor apartment in an attic. Basically, it's just a small room in an attic that even in October was pretty hot. Doesn't have air conditioning. He spends $450 a month for this apartment in a shithole. You walk onto the second floor and there's one of those signs that says fire extinguisher here. There's no fire extinguisher. There's a smoke alarm base screwed to the wall. There's no smoke alarm. It's a fucking death trap. But yet the guy's getting $450 for a shitty third floor apartment. Okay? And that's about as cheap as you can get here in Akron. And he can only afford that because he's on disability. He can't work. Okay? I'm not going to get into his personal issues, but I'm here to tell you he cannot work. Okay? He cannot hold down a job. And if you think that there aren't people that it's impossible to work, then again, you are completely ignorant of reality. I know a family who has an autistic child, I think 18, adult age now, and they sent this child to a training facility to learn a skill, and the training facility sent the child back with the message, this person is untrainable. Okay? You go and take them to a training facility meant for people like them so they can get a job, and the training facility sends them back and says they are untrainable. So either the training facility is lying, or there are people that can't work. You have to understand that there are people that can't work. And it's not because of addiction. It's because of either mental or physical disabilities. That's it. You have to know that that is true. Okay? You also need to know that addiction does not cause homelessness. It does not cause homelessness. The vast majority, I would say 95% or more addicts live indoors. 95% of American addicts, I guess they changed the dictionary definition. An addict, I think now, is a derogatory term. I think we're supposed to say a person with addiction, a person suffering from addiction. It just came out. I'm going to learn it. But alcoholic and addict, I guess, are words we're supposed to kind of start moving away from, which is good because they connotate negative things. Addict, alcoholic. It's just like equal to loser, you know? It's a synonym for loser. And anybody who thinks an addict, a person suffering from addiction or suffering from a drinking addiction, I'm going to learn the right terminology, I swear I am, is a loser. The only person is a loser is you judging them because you don't have the slightest inkling what addiction is like. You don't understand it at all. And you know what? Good for you. I'm so glad you don't suffer from addiction because it is hell on earth. You will destroy your entire life and watch yourself doing it just so you can drink some more or take some more drugs. You'll do it. That's not a choice, people. So what we have to understand is, what we ultimately have to understand is we have to start understanding other people more. We really do. We need to understand other people more. And we're all guilty of making snap judgments. I lean quite liberal, I think. But I'm really trying to understand people that are not me. And I have the homeless to thank for that. Because I have learned so much getting to work with homeless people that it has enabled me to then be interested in learning about other people that maybe I have prejudged, okay? And some of the people that I prejudge, and maybe you prejudge them if you are a liberal like me, are Trump supporters, okay? Let's just take the non-college educated white man, for example. Perhaps if you are a liberal like me, you like to call them bootlickers. Now, I wish you would stop that, because it should not be too difficult for you at this point in the history of America to understand why non-college educated white men are angry. NAFTA sent all their jobs to Mexico. The robots are coming for the leftover jobs. The liberals want to get rid of all coal and oil. And these are all jobs that were previously non-college educated white men. And interestingly, non-college educated men in general. It was a great place for non-college educated men. So then, are you now going to be like, well, you know, you should just get a college education. You should just get a college education. You should just get a college education. Did mommy and daddy pay for your college education? Or better yet, did you sign up for a lifetime of unforgivable debt for your college education? For some people, college education is not an option. Okay? You have to understand that. As a college educated person, you cannot just sit there and say stupid crap like you should go back to school. You have to understand, you have to be sensitive to the idea that there are people that, through many different reasons, cannot go back to school. Financial, time, just interest, mental ability. I've seen people go to, there's a new community college, Stark State, I think, over here on the east side of Akron. I saw some people start that school and they dropped out. You know why? Because the computer requirements, all the work had to be done on computers, and these people had no computer skills, and they started these people at very high levels of requiring computer proficiency. So it was too much. It's just too much. They couldn't do it. And then you have to say, well, what if they could? What if they could do it, okay? What if they don't want to do it? Does that count at all to anybody? That, you know what? I did this job. I want to keep doing this job. I don't want to do that. Does that matter to anybody? Does it ever matter to you that maybe they don't want to be you? So, because I run into this of like, why do homeless people live out here? Why do they choose to live out here? For the record, I know one person who chooses to live outside. One. And the reason is because he spent most of his life in prison, and he's claustrophobic. He doesn't like being indoors. He prefers to live outside. It's the only guy that chooses to be homeless. But yet, for some reason, people that don't understand homelessness, even homeless service providers, they're most guilty of not understanding their own clients, banty that phrase around. They choose to they choose not to get help. They choose not to get help. Then they say like a service resistant people, which is just code word loser. You see, the service providers are propagating the loser status of homeless people. Service resistant, to anybody who hears that phrase, thinks loser. Who would ever be service resistant? Who would ever be service resistant? That's ridiculous. They must choose to be homeless. No, you don't understand what the services are like. You don't understand what the process is like. You don't understand. And so we need to stop saying service resistant. We need to stop saying they choose to be homeless. No, they just don't choose your fucked up bullshit. It's your bullshit they don't want, because it fucking sucks. It fucking sucks, your shit. And the rest of the world doesn't get to know that. You know why? Because you're making the millions of dollars from the government, so you control the message, and the homeless people don't get to share their message. Their message doesn't get out because they don't have millions of dollars and college-educated marketing people on their team pushing the agenda to the newspapers. Now they got me. A leaf on his head. Hooray, hooray, they got me. Which, incidentally, I feel so sorry. Like, I'm like, really? This is what you get? You get this? Oh, so sorry. I feel so sorry for the homeless when I look at that. I'm like, really? Really? This is the best they got, me? But look, you get what you get. I'm trying my best, okay? But I'm here to tell you, people that are service resistant are usually people that can't stop their addiction, okay? Or they are suffering from severe mental health issues that are not getting fixed, okay? Or they're not going to the meetings. I can't tell you how many people have fallen out of housing because they didn't go to the meetings. When you get subsidized housing, you're their bitch. They can do whatever the fuck they want to you, and which means they will show up at your house, okay? Let me tell you a little story about a guy I knew that got housing. He'd been outdoors a long time. He lived in our tent village. He got a house. They put him in a house because the city committed to housing the last people that were at my village. He was doing quite well. Things were going well. His wife, one day, got out of addiction treatment, okay? Got out of addiction treatment. He invited her and 2 other people over to his house for a celebration. A sober celebration. They were gonna have some food, no alcohol, no drugs, nothing. Just to celebrate she had gotten out of addiction treatment and she was gonna move on. She goes out for a cigarette. She finds a drug dealer in a neighborhood she doesn't know, because you know why? There's drug dealers everywhere. I mean, it's like, what are they, like Uber Eats or whatever of drugs. They're just everywhere. You can spot a drug dealer a mile away. You can. I mean, once you learn who they are, you can just see them a mile away. It's like Gaydar for, let's like Drugdar. You know, like you get it. You're like, drug dealer, got it. She went out for a cigarette, scored some dope. I don't know what it was offhand. Fentanyl, probably. She likes the opiates. I don't quite know where she shot it up. If she went back to the house and shot it up in his bathroom, if she shot it up outside and then went into the house. All I know is because she had been in treatment, her tolerance went way down. She took too much and she overdosed. She overdosed in his apartment. She did not live there. This was her first night back. She overdosed in his apartment. He did not have any Narcan. So you know what he did? He called EMS to save his wife's life. And he knew what was going to happen. He knew. We all know. He called EMS to save her life, and he saved her life. And do you know what happened? He got kicked out of his housing. You can't have drugs in your housing. He wasn't seen as a hero, he was seen as a failure. And that was years ago. He lives outdoors to this day. He has to, yeah, I know. Marsha! Yeah, it's terrible. But that's the truth. That is the reality of the world these people live in. Okay? And so now how is he going to get back indoors? He's got this on his record. He's like I just don't see him ever getting back into housing. I can't see it. I cannot see him getting into legitimate housing. So he lives out in the woods, and I haven't seen him in months and months and months. Months and months and months I haven't seen this guy. But I know he lives out here somewhere. And so, what are we to do with him? What do we do with a guy like that? He is now kicked out of the system. He cannot get subsidized housing probably ever again, because he had a drug overdose in his apartment. Should he just move into the Haven Arrest for life? It's not a thing. It's not a thing. He worked for many, many years in labor, and his body is just wrecked. Now, I think he should try and get on disability. But he's out here doing drugs because he's depressed, because he feels like a failure, because the system said he was a failure. Not that he was a hero. Not that he saved his wife's life. He was a failure. And so he's back to doing hardcore drugs out here. So there's no service provider talking to him. He doesn't want to talk to anybody. He feels beaten. He just wants to live alone, do his drugs, and die. Okay? Can you appreciate why he would feel that way? So, what do we do with him? I would like to put him in a sanctioned camp. Like I had. Because you know why? Because we could slowly move him back into the system. People could come in and work with him on his disability. If we could get him on some income, then he could pay for an apartment. He could pay for a $400 apartment. But he's not doing that work out here because nobody's out here. And the only person that ever shows up is the nuisance department to tell him that he has to leave. That's the only people that show up. The homeless service providers don't come out here. They just sit behind their desk chastising the people that live out here. Judging them. Yeah, I really believe it's the first step. So, you know, this area here, well, let me see. Let me get my little tripod off of here. I can walk around a little. Drank all my tea. I'll show you around this little camp. So, I'm so thankful that I have gotten to learn Ice House, the beer of choice for the homeless person. Does anybody know what it costs? It's $1.06. It's $1.06. It's 99 cents plus tax, something like that. $1.06. So when you give a person $1, please give them another dime so they can get a hold, because it's so annoying. Oh, look at this though. Look at this. You see this? That's actually high end. That's I think that's an energy drink. Those are like $3.50 a can. Those are super expensive. Cheaper to Polar Pop. Wait, the Chill Club. Wait, that might not be Polar Pop. That's from the other Speedway, I think. Speedway is a better deal, incidentally. 79 cents for any size. 79 cents for any size. So unsanctioned camps don't work, okay? Because they end in chaos. You only need to read the book Lord of the Flies to understand why they don't work. So what ultimately happens is people try to escape and live by themselves, and this can work. If you live, I recommend living by yourself. If you become homeless, do not. I mean, if you have a significant other, I would live with them. Maybe a dog, that would be good. If you're a woman, you should definitely hook up with somebody that can fight. Don't as a woman ever live alone in the woods. That's just too much. So yeah, you should definitely hook up with somebody. You'll probably have to have sex with them, but it'll be worth it because you'll stay alive. So, oh wow. Oh my gosh. Somebody is living here. Oh my goodness. Look how nice this is. Look. I mean, they have a pillow. I hope I didn't interrupt them. I didn't see anybody here. I didn't know anybody was living here. Look at that. So you can see here they've put a tarp down, and then they've got I don't know, that could be a sleeping bag, a couple blankets, a nice pillow. They got their water bottle there. I don't know what's underneath there. I'm not going to intrude. But as you can see, what they don't have is shelter. So, very difficult to find a tent or rope or anything like that. You should be able to actually make something, but a lot of people don't have that experience or even wherewithal. They're just exhausted, mentally exhausted. And so they just come and do this. And this is fine until it rains. Then you're fucked. You're just fucked. So, you know, so the trash goes down here. So we need to clean all this up. And I would like to do this. But I didn't know somebody was living here. That's great. I should bring them a tent. If you want to donate, houselessmovement.org, you can donate. Basically, my thing is I want to do the work everybody else is outraged to do. I want to work with drug addicts. I want to work with sex workers. I want to work with everybody else hates. Because for you to judge somebody else's life is condescending, hateful bullshit. And I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of it. I can't even. I can't even. So at any rate, what makes me oftentimes so frustrated is that people don't understand people. They're just so caught up in their own judgment, you know? They're just like, well, they should stop doing drugs. And I'm like, well, have you ever thought about how that works? Do you even understand how stopping drugs works? The only way you're going to stop doing drugs is if you have something worth living for. Okay? You can't just stop doing drugs because you want to stop doing drugs. You gotta it won't work. You might do it for a while, but eventually you're going to withdraw, you're going to feel depressed, and you're just going to be like, why did I ever stop doing drugs? All I feel is like crap. I don't feel better. I don't feel like I can get on with my life. I don't have a life. So you go back to doing drugs. Duh. My friend Ashley has a theory that the first thing you get is community, and the second thing you get is meaningful work. You don't even think about the drugs. You don't even think about the drugs. The drug thing is a symptom of a fucked up existence, okay? And it doesn't even have to be this homeless. I mean, you can be rich and still have a fucked up existence. That you feel like your life isn't where you wanted it to be, that you hate yourself. I mean, the reason you do drugs or drink into excess is so that you can get on with your life. They should have never shut down your camp. You had that structured so well. Thanks, Thomas. Well, Tom Youth, it's good to see you, buddy. You cannot, unsanctioned group camps cannot work. They cannot work. Because what happens is some asshole rolls up in the camp, starts doing bullshit, and you're like, hey man, you need to stop that. And then they're like, what are you gonna do? You don't own this land. This isn't your land. It's like the number one thing asshole homeless people say. This isn't your land. I'm so sick of that shit. I hear that shit all the fucking time. Drives me nuts. But they say it so that they can just keep doing their bullshit, okay? And then homeless people that just want to quietly live are like, well, yeah, he's kind of right. It's not really my place. I don't know what to do. And then they fuck up the whole thing. They fuck up the whole camp. So what ultimately happens is, in a long enough position, if the city does not break up a homeless camp, they'll break up their own homeless camp. That's been my experience, because things get worse and worse. It starts with excessive stealing, and then it turns violent, and then the neighbors, like the people that live in houses around you, start bitching at you, and you're just like, fuck it, I'm leaving, and then just disappears. Okay, at least that happens in space where you can disappear into. I don't know anything about Skid Row. Like, I don't know what happens in a city that doesn't have space that you can escape out of. I don't know. But in a space that like Akron, people just disperse. And I really do believe that if you're not going to have a sanctioned camp, you should not group up. You should never let somebody come into your camp. Like, you should aggressively push them out so that they don't set up camp and then they say the most hateful words on the world. You don't own this land. It's just terrible. It's terrible. So I do recommend like living like this, like, you know, like one or two people, like that guy is quietly over there. But I'll tell you what, his stuff is going to get stolen. It's a miracle that bedding is still there, because people will walk through here, you know, they'll come through, check it out in the middle of the night. But but then ultimately you got to set up sanctioned camps in areas like this. There's nothing wrong with having a homeless camp here. This is fine. Highly secluded, nobody can see them. And this is how it's going to work. This is how I would love to see somebody try. I would like a police officer that's on homeless duty to come in, sit down with the residents of the camp, have them mutually come up with the rules of the camp, and they'll come up with good rules. And then the police officer like does some magic police officer thing that says, I have now hereby deputized these 3 people to be my eyes and ears. And if you don't agree with these rules, you are getting kicked out of the camp. That would be fine. I would love to see that. That's basically what happened on my land. So that they wrote all the rules. They set up their own tri-council. They set up their own security. But then they had my backing. And basically, if somebody gave them shit, and then I have the backing of the police. You see? So like they can go and be like, hey, you have to leave. And they're like, make me. And they're like, hey, Sage, this guy says you have to make him. And then I go all Colonel Kurtz on their ass, you know, from Apocalypse Now, and get all fucking that way. And if that shit doesn't work, then I'm like, I'm calling the fucking police and I'm going to ban you from my property. And so it works, that system works. But when you live out here in nature with no structure, that is inhumane. That is not, that's unlivable. That's unlivable, okay? The Lord of the Flies happens, okay? That book should be a guidebook to why you cannot have unsanctioned camps, okay? You just have to realize that. That is the reality, all right? So we have to have sanctioned camps. You need this as the first stepping stone. They take homeless people that are living under bridges for years and then want them to go through all this bullshit rigmarole of paperwork and meetings, and then want to move them up here. Like, they're here and they want them way up here. There's no on-ramp. It's just like, you know, you gotta you're literally hitting a wall and climbing up, and some can do it, but most can't. And so they live out here. We need to get they're here. A house is here, or subsidized housing is here. We need to get them a little here, and then 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 here. It's basic humanity, people. It's basic. The most basic understanding of humans, and people refuse to do it because they're judgmental assholes. It's the only reason. It's the only reason we don't understand anybody, whether it's non-college educated white men, whether it's homeless people, whether it's addicts, whether it's black people, whether it's Hispanics, Latinx. I love that word, Latinx. I love that. I love that. LGBTQ, did I say that? Plus, we're judgmental assholes because we can't take a second to understand why people are doing what they're doing. And so we're like, gross. That's gross. That sucks. You're stupid. You're bad. And it's always white men that look just like me saying that bullshit. and we have all the money and all the power, and so we're like, yeah, fuck the homeless, fuck the gays, fuck the LGBTQ, you know, fuck everybody that doesn't look like me, fuck women. Give them 70 cents on a dollar. That's what they deserve. And we have all the marketing. And we say it rationally, like, well, you know, women only make 70 cents on a dollar because, you know, they want to have a family too. They want their cake and eat it too, you know. If they would commit as hard as men, they would make the whole dollar. Fuck you, asshole. Anyways, I love you. I think the world of you. And if you came over here, thank you. This is where it's going to be. This is where the fun's going to be. I don't know how to turn it off. I don't know. But I'm going to say something. Anyways. Yeah, Marsha, thanks for being here, honey. I will see you guys later. Have a wonderful week. I love you. Guess I want to stop the stream. Bye.